Do you ever have a question or something that just kind of haunts you and it keeps on haunting you? Sometimes not radically, sometimes just a little bit, but when you actually think of it consciously, you wonder if it'll ever go away, if it ever won't haunt you at all. I have this headset on. I was just sitting here dictating to Windows Word on this Dragon talk to text thing, and it worked out pretty good. Anyhow, I remembered this, and so I thought, I just might as well tell about it. So anyhow, here I go. And what haunts me is a question that I was asked. People say, "Well, you're in the war." I said, "Well, yeah, I was a little bit in Korea, and back during the Korean conflict." And of course, the next question always is, "Well, did you ever kill anyone?" It's a question we don't like to think about, no matter what the answer is. You can't just come right out and say, "No, I didn't," or "Yes, I did," and without thinking about things. Um, so I started in. It says, "Did you ever kill anyone?" I was in the army during the Korean conflict, Korean War, actually. It was in the spring of 1952. I don't know the name of the area where we were. Everything in Korea looked just the same to me, just alike to me. It was all open spaces, smoky places, spaces with noises that I couldn't discern. I know their names for those places, but I never knew any of them. We had landed in this area from helicopters and were told to get ready to spend a few days here and to dig foxholes, a place lower where we could get down and not be picked off by a sniper. I dug my foxhole, and the second night I spread my poncho out on the ground for my bed. Uh, Now, see, I typed something here and I have no idea what the hell I said. Said about my pack, their delay might have on like a fellow, but it was very uncomfortable. I used my pack for a pillow. That's what I meant to say. But it wasn't very comfortable. There were too many small, hard things inside of it that made me uncomfortable. Well, what the hell? You go with what you got to work with, and that's all I had at the time, so I was pretty well satisfied. I went to bed that night very tired. Very tired. Uh, just I barely got my head laid down on my pack pillow and I drifted off to sleep. I don't know how long I slept, except it was beginning to get daylight when I woke. I remember rubbing my eyes with my hands, wondering if I would ever be rested again. Like many of the soldiers with me, I spent a lot of time wondering what the hell I'm doing over here, having to fight these slopes, we call them. They say they're people just like us, only a different color. Up to now, I didn't know. I'm saying one of those slopes, but maybe they're right. After I had awoken a bit, I got my eyes open and sort of came around. I sat up and started to look around. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a dark blur. I turned just as it got closer to me. I reached for my rifle with my right hand and looked up at the same time. I looked directly into the eyes of a young man, actually a young boy, who couldn't have been more than 16 or 17 years old. I don't know what the hell I thought at first. It occurred to me somewhere deep inside my head that I was about to kill another human being. Then I saw this was, I saw, then I saw who this was looking at me. My mind told me, he's just a kid. The understanding there still with this rifle. There's just a kid standing there with his rifle pointed toward me, looking at me as if he wasn't sure what to do next. I thought, my God, this guy is no more than about 16 or 17 years old. And he knows he doesn't have any more idea about what to do than I do. So what are we going to do now? Well, my hand moved over my rifle and down my finger went down inside the trigger guard. Now I fire a rifle left-handed, so I had to transfer the rifle from my right side over to my left side. I remember thinking to myself at the time, by the time I get over there, I'll already have been shot. But it didn't happen that way. As I looked up into his eyes and his eyes looked down into my eyes, I could see neither of us were sure what we should do, if we should kill this other person who's here in front of us. This person is much like us, a young man in a place in a land he doesn't understand. I remember thinking to myself, my God, this is his land. Why would I come all this way just to shoot a fellow for living in his own country? What should I do now? I asked myself. What should I do now? He asked himself, I'm sure. And you understand, all this thinking and wondering took place in just split seconds. But it didn't matter what we were thinking at the same time. It didn't matter how we felt about each other at the time. It didn't matter that we were both afraid even if we did something, it would be wrong. It could never be right, especially for me in this man's land, particularly this young man in his own home. Killing this young man in his own home was more than I could conceive of. But like I say, it didn't matter what I was thinking, and it didn't matter what he was thinking. All of a sudden I heard a pop. It sounded like a firecracker going off somewhere. It wasn't startling. It didn't scare me. It didn't make me jump. It was just a pop. But as I looked at this young man, immediately after the pop, I saw his head and his face disappear. And I watched his body as it fell to the ground, with half of the head and his face gone. And I thank God that it wasn't I who had to make a decision as to what to do next. I guess I'm the luckiest man in the Korean War. I was there for one more day, and during that time I was there, nothing exciting happened at all. After the next day, I was sent back to the helicopter area and put on a helicopter and taken back to headquarters area. From there, I was put on a boat, taken out to a cruiser, and brought back to the United States of America. Evidently, God had decided to spare my life, but having done that, he elected to take the life of another, the life of a young man who, like me, probably had no idea why he was there and why he was doing what he was doing. So this was the exciting part of my tour of duty in the Korean conflict. Yes, that I ever killed anyone. No, I didn't kill anyone, but I have to look at it like this. I'm the reason that young man was killed. If he hadn't been standing there looking down at me, sitting there looking up at him, each of us wondering what the hell we were going to do next, would we kill this person in front of us, this young boy, this young man we didn't even know? But if the opposite had happened and I would have been killed, I wonder if that young man would have felt the same way I do. I wonder if he would have considered it to be his fault for being there, for me to stare at, instead of watching to see if someone's shooting at me. I guess I'll spend the rest of my life wondering about this. It bothers me from time to time. The things that happened, as brief as they were, but I try not to let it get me down. But if I live to be 100, I'll always ask myself this question. If it had been the other way around, would that young man feel guilty about it as I do now? This is JC. Thank you very much.